Hi, I'm Connor Williams, and in this vlog I'll be discussing the important topic of what are the issues with police use of stop and search. This was an easy topic to pick, as throughout my time at Swansea University, this sensitive nature of stop and search has been very fascinating and in need of a thorough analysis. To begin this vlog, we will be looking at issues of stop and search based on the grounds of the search, such as the lack of reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion will be discussed many times in this vlog, which is the suspicion police must have that the individual they want to search has committed an offence or is about to commit an offence. This suspicion must be based on facts or reliable information. Secondly, we'll be looking at police discrimination in their stop and searches and how ethnic minorities are more likely to be stopped than white people. As you will see in this vlog, this is a major issue within today's policing and society. Thirdly, the issue of effectiveness of stop and search will be discussed, along with the issue of unreasonable force. This lack of effectiveness is based on low arrest rates and lack of successful searches. Police are allowed to use force, however, we will be looking at when the police overstep their power and that force becomes unreasonable force. Finally, we will sum up and conclude the vlog by overall discussing the issues of stop and search, whilst also suggesting improvements to reduce the issues of stop and search, and conclude if the police are abusing their stop and search powers given to them in the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. Recommendations such as more training on police will be discussed to stop the issue of targeting ethnic minorities and to use reasoned suspicion correctly to avoid bias or discrimination. PACE 1984 has been found to be effective and is not the main issue of this vlog. However, it's the police failure to follow the guidelines set out in PACE, as PACE sets out guidance to what constitutes and what doesn't constitute as reasonable suspicion, whilst also guiding the offender to what constitutes as an unbiased stop and search. Firstly, it is important to know exactly what is stop and search, and what powers the police have to stop and search an individual. Stop and search powers are police interventions to keep people safe. It involves the police searching the individual or the vehicle if there are reasonable grounds to do so. However, this is our first issue with police use stop and search, because what exactly is reasonable grounds? Reasonable grounds to stop and search an individual cannot be based on an instinct, but must be based on reliable information or fact. They must believe that you have committed an offence or are about to commit an offence. The power granted police to stop and search comes from the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. This reasonable suspicion is often subjective and down to officers' view, but remember, they cannot base suspicion on a feeling. It must be more than that. PACE sets out all the powers police have to carry out stop and search, but also what the officer cannot do, such as being able to detain a vehicle without reasonable grounds. In October 2020, the IOPC raised concerns with stop and search. They found out that the legitimacy of stop and searches would be undermined by officers communicating poorly with those they were searching, and officers continuing to seek further evidence to support searches after initial grounds for the stop and search. This should not be the case. Police should not be trying to justify the reason for the searching the individual during the search, but should have reasonable suspicion before the search. One of the aims of having this reasonable suspicion is to prevent police from potentially abusing their stop and search powers. However, statistics, which we will talk about next, regarding high stop and search for ethnic minorities suggest that police do not use reasonable suspicion principle correctly. Therefore, these points raise a concern about police applying the reasonable grounds principle correctly, which was one of the many issues of stop and search. What constitutes as reasonable suspicion can be found in PACE 1984, but it is clear that sometimes the police do not follow the guidelines set out in PACE regarding reasonable suspicion. Reasonable grounds for suspicion is the legal test the officer must satisfy before they can stop and detain an individual, but this must be genuine suspicion of the individual and not a bias, which is sometimes the case, as we will see next when talking about ethnic minorities. The high rates suggest that police have a bias in stop and searches and are not only searching individuals when there are reasons suspicion. Stop and search is a popular method used by the police. In England and Wales, between April 2020 and March 2021, there were 697,405 stop and searches, and this is excluding vehicle searches. Due to this large number, it is important that every case is handled without the abuse of power. on the police's behalf. However, statistics show that black people are more likely to be stopped and searched than white people. This is a really concerning issue. For every 1,000 white people, 7.5 people are stopped and searched, whereas for every 1,000 black people, 52.6 people are searched. Therefore, black people are 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched than white people. These statistics suggest that race plays a role in stop and search, which should not be the case. The Equality Act 2010 protects people from discrimination, and therefore people should not be stopped and searched by the police based on their race, age, or disabilities, and etc. Racial profiling is a problem within the police force, and which can explain the high number of ethnic minorities getting stopped and searched more than white people. Racial profiling is a discriminatory practice by law enforcement officials targeting individuals for suspicion of crime based on the individual's race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin. For drug searches on black people, there was a higher recorded rate of weak grounds for the search than equivalent searches on white people. This combines the issue of reasonable suspicion and purposeful targeting of BAME individuals, which is a major issue within the police force, within the police use of stop and search. The Lamy report concluded that BAME individuals still face bias in parts of the criminal justice system, even though prejudice has declined in wider society. Stop and search is no different, as based on the stop and search statistics of ethnic minorities, it supports the idea that there is still a bias. According to The Guardian, over half of black people who were stopped and searched by police officers have said they felt embarrassed and humiliated. This questions the idea of, is stop and search a good method of policing if it is leaving members of society feeling violated? This leads us to the next topic of unreasonable force during stop and search and the overall effectiveness of stop and search. An issue with stop and search is that there are low arrest rates, which raises the point that what is the need for stop and search if it just leaves people feeling violated and targeted? One of the biggest issues of stop and search is this debate on, is it an actual effective form of policing? In fact, in the year 2020 to 2021, officers found nothing in 74% of stop and searches, and the HMIC FRS analysis shows the stronger grounds they have for the search, the more likely they are to find what they are looking for. The outcome of stop and searches very rarely result in an arrest. In fact, the arrest rate for stop and search has never been above 20%. However, despite the low arrest rate, there is an overrepresentation of black people in arrest statistics, as black people are more likely to be stopped and searched but also arrested. There is no sufficient evidence to suggest stop and search reduces crime, or even that it acts as a deterrent. However, the counter-argument to this is that stop and search is a tool to investigate crime rather than stop crime. For the small amount of cases that end in an arrest, the individuals must comply with the officer. Otherwise, police can use reasonable force. This involves physically detaining a person who is attempting to resist an arrest. The excessive use of the force from the police is one of the many reasons for loss of public confidence in police. This could be because of the highly publicised examples of police using excessive or unreasonable force, for example, the case of George Floyd. So, to summarise this vlog, it really raises the question that in a cost-benefit analysis, does the negatives of stop and search, such as the disproportionate targeting of BAME individuals, police abusing their powers given to them to carry out stop and search, and their lack of effectiveness, outweigh the importance of stop and search, allowing thorough investigations to take place? To improve on these issues though, police officers should have increased training to avoid the targeting of BAME individuals, and also learn what reasonable suspicion is and how to use it correctly. The purpose of this vlog was to highlight the issues with police use of stop and search, which has led to be able to confidently conclude that more needs to be done to ensure the safety and privacy of the public are protected.